All right, track 2, Aaron Burr, sir. Story-wise, we're meeting a lot more of the characters in depth. If we allow that the call to action is in the first song, which I say it is by just kind of telling the audience that something is going to happen, I think there's a step here that they want us to think is happening in the hero's journey. What is that step you think they want us to think is happening?
The mentor.
Mentor, yeah. How?
With him, he's trying to align with Burr.
Yeah. He wants to meet Burr, and Burr's, actually aligning advice. Giving advice on the mentor front. So, a lot of things. There are other stories that you can think of where the mentor turns into the shadow, the villain, so to speak. I would say Aaron Burr never turns into a mentor except for a negative example in the show, but they're playing with that idea of we're meeting the characters. But they're more than just meeting these characters. So there's different ways of introducing things. This may or may not apply directly to how you do it, but story-wise. But in this show, he's doing something very interesting. How is he, if you were to not understand the words, say you spoke a foreign language, how is he differentiating the characters in their music and rhythm?
I was going to say maybe just by the way they talk, some might be more forceful or that's flowing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to explain it.
Yeah.
I was going to say the personalities are kind of different too, because you got with the Lawrence, his group want to go in and drink and like party, and then Burr's like kind of more, I'm education and like that's my interest. So the personalities are a little bit different by what they say.
The way the music's written, would you be able to tell that Alexander Hamilton is nervous meeting Burr?
Yes.
Even if you didn't understand English?
Mm-hmm.
What techniques is he using to accomplish that?
Tone of his voice.
Tone of his voice?
Look like he's kind of rambling.
Yeah, and even just the words and the stuttered pauses, the insecure pauses. Yeah, Garrett.
The rhythm of the lyrics, Hamilton's lyrics are very punchy and very rapid and very fast, while Burr's rhythm is very flowing.
And slow and considered too, so it tells you a lot about his character. What about, for instance, Lafayette versus Mulligan? Lafayette, remember, is foreign himself, speaks French. So if we're to say that this music was about the new energy, this is one thing too. Hip hop was about a new energy, is kind of what he felt. Besides the hip hop thing. So if Lafayette is from a different country and coming to this new energy, is he that familiar with hip hop? No. Okay. So how does his flow differentiate the others that kind of says that?
Was he the one that was kind of singing?
Yeah, oui, mon ami, j'appelle Lafayette, the Lancelot of the Revolutionary set. If any of you know old school hip hop versus new, like for instance Bust a Move, there used to be a lot more rhythm that was like da 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 da. To kind of a more simple, straightforward beat. That your kind of rhyme line ends on 4. And it is a very basic rhythm that he gives. Versus Mulligan, who is rapping on the lines, I'm Hercules Mulligan, up in it, loving it. I guess I heard your mother said, come again. So he's rolling around past the measures in a much more sophisticated way than Lafayette is on the rhythm. So in a number of different ways besides the character, their voice, he's setting up immediately different ways of how these people communicate that should be rather effective, even if people weren't listening. Now, how can that apply to your projects? How many of you are having dialogue in your projects, do you think? What can you do to differentiate your characters? How do they speak differently from each other? So that's something to think about. Anybody else notice anything else particularly interesting in this section yourselves? Because to me this is the fun part, so you can go off on a tangent. It doesn't have to relate to
I see the ways that Hamilton and Burr are already set up as these parallel characters. The foil, right? The concept of the foil. Everyone know that term? Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, foil. Does anybody know how to Anybody want to take a stab at defining a foil? Yeah, here.
It's almost like a rival in a sense. It's a character in opposition typically to the protagonist, and they act to kind of, I guess you could say, muffle the protagonist in a way. Whenever the protagonist says or does something, their foil is there to say, I don't think it's going to work, and here's why. And it's typically logical. Typically what they say makes a lot of sense, but you don't want to agree with them.
I would say, what generally does a villain want versus the hero?
The villain usually wants self-gain, like
Self-gain or something. Well, but I would say usually something in opposition to. My personal thought in the foil is that a foil is, similar to can be as villain and antagonist, but often wants the same thing. Lex Luthor wants to destroy humanity and get rich. Superman wants to save the world. Foil would be more like if there was somebody had completely different ways of wanting to save the world. For instance, maybe Batman, the Batman v Superman kind of thing. They both want the same things. They have different ideas of how to go about getting it.
And they're often competing with one another.
Yeah.
And their paths diverge, but they had so much similarities at certain points.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the next song.